everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Book Talk. Today, we will talk to the author of the book Leben by the Berlin-based author Mr. David Wagner and Dr. Sunandan Mahajan, who has translated this book into Marathi. I have got a unique opportunity today to talk to the author and translator both at the same time, and I'm super excited. I'm sure it will provide fascinating insights into the art of translation and the nuances involved in bringing this impact to a new audience. Let me introduce the author to you. Mr. David Wagner has lived in Berlin since 1991. His prize winning debut book, Meine Nachtblaue Hose or My Night Blue Trousers, was published in the year 2000, and his novel Vier Äpfel, means Four Apples, was longlisted for the German Book Prize. His best selling novel, Leben, that is Life, won the 2013 Leipzig Book Fair Prize and the Best of the Year award in 2014 in the People's Republic of China. He was Friedrich Dürrenmatt Guest Professor for World Literature at the University of Bern, and his books have been translated into 16 languages, which also includes Indian languages. He has written extensively about the city of Berlin in collections such as Mauerpark and Welche Farbe hat Berlin, or What Color is Berlin? His most recent novel, Der vergessliche Riese, The Forgetful Giant, won the Bayerische Literaturpreis in 2019. Lives and Four Apples have been published in China by People's Literature Publishing House, and it is translated by Yan Lei. Lives and Four Apples won the Best Foreign Book Award in China in 2014. Now let me introduce the translator of the book to you. Dr. Sunanda Vidyasagar Mahajan retired as a professor of German and head of the Department of Foreign Languages from the Savitribai Phule Pune University after having completed 37 years of teaching German language and literature. She undertook many research projects. She received fellowships to carry out research in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. She is the editor of a Marathi translation quarterly magazine, Kelyane Bhashantar, which is dedicated to literary translations from different foreign languages into Marathi. There are 9 translated books to her credit. She has worked as a translator and mentor in some translation projects initiated and supported by Goethe Institute, that is Max Muller-Bauer. Let me tell you quickly about the book. This book deals with the story of a patient and how he deals with his disease. It is written in a fantastic format, and many aspects of life are discussed in it. So let us welcome Mr. Wagner and Dr. Mahajan to the show. Welcome, Mr.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes, thank you, Lalita.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Dr. Mahajan.
Thank you for inviting me to this talk. Translator
Pleasure.
author, yeah.
I would like to start by asking Mr. Wagner about the title of the book. Can you tell us about it?
Well, as you might know, the German title of the book is Leben, like this. I think you see it now. And Leben, yeah, it's a funny word in German. Written like this, you can't say, is it a noun? Is it a verb? It can be the infinitive of the verb to live. It can be the life, but it can also be lives. Yeah, it's singular and plural at the same time. So it's a very, I would say, a very open title. Yeah, and so it's about one life, but it's about 2 lives as well, because the patient, the narrator, the protagonist, he in a way he thinks that he has 2 lives, one before transplantation and one afterwards. His vita nova, his new life. But then it's as well about the lives of others, because in fact, I always I think this book this novel is about living in a hospital as well. So, and he stays in this hospital room, and always he meets other patients. Yeah, they're always his his Kameraden, I say in Dutch. So people who mostly there are two, and so they tell their lives, and so he gets to know other life stories. So in a way, it's a lot of lives. Yeah, and then it's about life in general, in a way, you could say. So this is the title, and only afterwards, you see, the title it's a very interesting, and this happens with literature. I'm only the author. Yeah, I found this title and I wrote the book, but then the text has some other meanings in a way I maybe didn't know about before. Yeah, so I always say the book knows more than the author. Yeah, hopefully. And so I was told afterwards, yeah, actually, this could be Leben. Yeah, because this hand here could be an I. So then you have Leben becomes, if you put in an I here, becomes the German word for love or to love. So that's about the title. Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yes.
Dr. Mahajan, when you decided to translate this title, what was your thought process?
Yeah. Actually, about the Marathi title, or title of the Marathi version of Leben, it is Svikrut. Actually, there is a word play. The author did not mention it right now, but I think in one instance, the narrator is waiting for the ambulance to come, and the ambulance is supposed to take him to the hospital for the organ transplant. And at that time, he sends a message to his friends saying, I'm going for new liver. And Leben is life, and Leber is liver. So he mistakenly, unknowingly, he makes the typing mistake, and he says new Leben instead of new labor. So that is actually, though it is mistakenly typed, it is said that it is interchangeable, because in this particular case, new labor is new life. So
yes.
This wordplay I wanted to have also in Marathi. So the word-to-word translation of Leben would be in Marathi Ayushya, and Ayushya, I mean, it did not hint to any specific meaning. So I then started thinking. So liver in Marathi is Yakrut, and the word Svikrut means something which is accepted from somebody, or Svikrut can be appropriated. So Svikrut is a kind of, in German you may say angeeignet, something from somebody. Svikrut and this Yakrut. So that word play, though it is not exactly same, but I wanted to have that word play in the title. So it happened so that I said, yes, this is the correct title, better than only Ayushya as Leben. So that is how the Marathi title means.
Very good.
Really nice. Leben, labor, and Yakrut and Svikrut. Fantastic.
Yes.
Mr. Wagner, this question is for you. When I started reading the book, I thought I would be very sentimental while reading, or I would even feel depressed. But none of this happened. I was surprised to find myself engrossed in the tale of the patient's journey. Thank you for writing such a beautiful memoir. My question is, how did you select the format of this narration?
Yeah, well, that was it was quite a journey as well. Yeah, in a way, I started to write the book because I wanted to understand what had happened. And so, as you might know, this story is more or less my own story. Yeah. So I myself, I was saved by a liver transplant years ago. Now, as we talk, it's 17 years. Yeah. So 1 year after the transplant, I started to like only trying to understand what had happened and trying to. For me, the main question was. I felt like it's a wonder that it's marvelous that I'm still alive and that I'm alive because somebody else who died gave me gifted me an organ, and saved a life like this. And so that was the beginning, and afterwards, in a way, I wanted to, as well, I wanted to write, and actually at the beginning, that was a different book. I wanted to write about the hospital, about staying in this non-lieu, this Nicht-Ort Krankenhaus, hospital. And because more or less I was in the book, it's more or less 1 year. 1 year in a room, and then you start to make journeys in a room, and you have a lot of time to think, and So I try to find a form, a style to put all this together, and I tried and tried, and in the end, it was like this. So I don't know. That's the work of the author. So what I want to say is, when I started to write, I didn't know how it would look at the end. That's more or less what I can say.
Dr. Mahajan, when you read this book for the first time, the book, German book Leben, what were your initial thoughts?
Oh. Yes, actually, I am a little reluctant in reading books which narrate the story of illness or hospital or medical treatment, because this kind of books, they make you sad, you feel sad, they make you upset. So I'm generally away from this kind of books. But as I mentioned earlier, the Lesung by David Wagner was one of the inspirations why I took this book for reading. And it was a different kind of experience because the narrator, he's the first person narrator here, or the protagonist, he keeps, actually you have the feeling that he keeps emotional distance from the instances he's narrating. And at the same time, you feel as a reader that he is also very much aware of the fact that his body might stop functioning, or there is a probability of death, that he's always been on the threshold of life and death. So he does not talk only about the illness, but he talks about the hospital, he talks about other patients, he talks about the memories. And the best part is that it is not narrated in a chronological order, but it is all, I like that kind of narration, that it is like a puzzle, and the reader has to fit in the parts of that puzzle wherever they fit rightly, and it doesn't matter also if they don't fit and they are left loose. So that is the beauty of the narration, I think. And these are the two, I mean, the content and the form, both I like the most. So I decided to read it and to translate it, but it happened later.
Okay, that is great.
I was so I when I started to write the book, I didn't want to write what you could call, with a Latin term, autopathography. Actually, I didn't want to just talk about the illness, because in a way, when you are in hospital, everybody talks about illness, and you're absolutely right. It can be depressing, and you don't want to hear it. And actually, in a way, I didn't want to talk about illness, and I wanted to talk about life, yeah, and maybe about death as well, yeah. You know, death is a great taboo in German society and culture, and Germans don't like to be reminded of that possible death and dying, and but here we have a protagonist who is always aware of this, as you say, and in a way this makes life easier. Yeah, and so I wanted to put like this feeling into the book, and only afterwards, I didn't know it, a lot of people told me, oh well, actually it's quite humorous, your book, and it's in a strange way funny as well, although it's in a depressing environment, and but in a way, this hospital for the narrator and for the protagonist isn't so bad at all. And in fact, he likes it in the end very well. And in the very end, he has like to be drawn out of it, because he in a way he fears that he likes this too much, that he wants to stay there forever.
This work touches on themes of illness, resilience, identity, and many more themes. So, how do you approach these complex themes?
Well, when you call a book life or lives, in a way you want to put everything in it. And in a way I tried this, and in the end I had to cut out a lot. In a way I wanted to talk about what makes a life, and about the richness of life in a way, and and the possibilities, and but I would say the other way around. Writing a book, it's always the question for the author is always what to not put in the book. This you only learn by writing, because
Dr. Mahajan, what aspects of Mr. Wagner's style did you find most challenging or exciting to translate?
Okay. Frankly speaking, I did not come across any severe difficulty in while translating the text, because I mean language-wise, because it is not a complicated language. The story is not told in any complicated language narrated. The only difficulty I faced was to translate the medical words or the medical phrases, and the passages from the hospital files and all. So because in India, actually in medical field, English language is commonly used, and even some words are used in Indian languages that are English. So I mean, even if I use parallel Marathi medical words, I mean fachsprachlich, but it would be difficult to understand for the readers. So I said, okay, I will use the English words, and only there where Marathi words are commonly used for those English words, they can be used. So that was one solution. But the main problem was the hospital files. I mean, at the beginning of every part, there are passages which are taken directly from the hospital file of the patient. And I was totally clueless, because so I thought this, I mean, I must find somebody who can explain me this. So I approached my cousin brother, who is a surgeon and gastroenterologist. And yes, so he explained me the whole human body, and he explained me what goes if something goes wrong with liver, and he He explained me also what happens when the organ is transplanted and liver is transplanted and everything.
Yeah.
And then I could understand those passages partially, but after he explained me everything and after he answered my several questions, I could understand those texts and I could translate them also. Then I showed him, confirmed that it makes sense. And then only I said, okay, now it is translated. So that was the main difficulty. This was the challenging task, so to say, and that was due to my ignorance about medical field, of course. But the exciting part was translating the texts with emotionally crucial incidences. For example, when the narrator is asked to sign the agreement that about his willingness or readiness for the transplant, he is supposed to sign the agreement, but his pen stops functioning. I mean, it cannot write. So there, and then one more instance I remember, the narrator talks with his new organ, and he doesn't know to whom it belongs now. Or some other time he says, how can we say that this is the new organ, because it is actually the used one. Yeah, you take it from somebody. So these instances, there I have to be very careful with the selection of the words, and that balance I had to make. So that was exciting part while translating the text. Yeah.
That is good. So much research goes into translation as well.
Yes, in some cases, yes.
Dr. Mahajan, if I can add this, for the very normal, the common German reader, these medical texts are like Fachchinesisch or Fachsprache, like a foreign language as well, because they use a lot of Latin terms which are not at all common. And the idea behind this was that you could tell the story about 1 year in hospital and about this illness. You could tell it like the file of the doctor, like the hospital file would do it. And this is like one way to tell it. This is one narration, and then you could tell it like the rest of the book does it from the view of the patient who has all this time lying in bed.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that this book, Leben, is very much used now in medical schools. Very much in Switzerland and at some point even in Germany, because in Switzerland they have this kind of new approach to teach young doctors or medicine students to teach the medical humanities as well. They call it. It's a field, and there is a university like in Basel, in Bâle, and in Fribourg en Suisse. They use this book a lot, like to teach the becoming doctors, to show them that you can narrate an illness in another way from the patient's view, and not only with those files who nobody understands, and so this book has an afterlife in this field, which I find very interesting, and which is good for me because I'm invited to talks to university and to talk to medicine students.
Oh, great! That's a good addition.
That's great. Yes.
Even they're preparing a volume now. They just this summer they did a very long interview with me, 2 professors. They were preparing a volume about das medikale Werk David Wagners, so the medical thing in the books of David Wagner, because it was not really planned. Well, I didn't become a writer to write a story about my liver transplant or my stay in hospital, but so I started out with some other novels, as you might know, much earlier. So, but then I wrote this book, and then I wrote the novel Der vergessliche Riese, the Forgetful Giant. This is a book, and this talks about a father who is very forgetful, and in a way you could say he has Alzheimer or dementia. And so this is another medical topic in a way.
Yeah.
So, and in this field, I'm invited to this, talking about the elderly who you're forgetting and all this problem causes to society. Yeah. So this was a footnote.
Okay. Nice. Mr. Wagner, how do you view the role of personal experience in literature? And do you believe it enhances storytelling?
For sure. Well, because so from my point of view, I can only write books about something in which I'm really interested. Yeah, which subject about I really want to know something about, or I want to understand. Like I told before, that like 1 year after my the transplantation, I thought, what did happen there? So this is crazy in a way, yeah. And in a more general way, all my books in a way deal with personal experience, yeah. So 15 years ago, I wrote a book. It's a short novel. It's a novel, yeah, but not too thick. It deals. The topic is a supermarket. It deals. It's called Vier Äpfel, Four Apples, and it tells the story of a man who goes in the supermarket and he buys 4 apples. And when you buy 4 apples in a German supermarket, you have to weight them, and they weigh exactly 1,000 grams. And so, and this in a way enchants this man, and so he is in a sort of magic supermarket, and all the life and all capitalism and consumerism and everything is in the supermarket. And this is an experience I have all the other day because I go shopping a lot. And I was in a way fascinated by this. And I always say this is my most autobiographical book because I go shopping, yeah. And so in a way, there are other writer types, but I'm the one I have to experience, and and what life gives you is very important for me.
Okay. Dr. Mahajan, could you walk us through your process of translating this book? Did you work closely with Mr. Wagner or consult with him on certain passages?
No, unfortunately not. Because I started translating it, and I thought that I should translate it till end. And if I have any difficulty, then I might try to get contact of the author and all. But it did not happen.
You could have.
Yes. Yeah.
To be. I think
yes.
I remember that it was 10 years ago. There was a sort of conference with 6 or 8 translators in Literarisches Kolloquium in Berlin. There was the Chinese translator and the Danish and some others, and they talked there for 3-4 days about the book, but help them, sorry, but sorry for interrupting you.
So yes. Yes. So before translating, of course, I read the book twice or thrice, whatever. And actually, when you are reading a text, and if you don't understand something, you can still go further if you don't want to disturb the flow of your reading. But while translating, you cannot take this liberty. I mean, you have to make clear what it means and what that word requires when it gets translated. So about this book, I thought that this book, I mean, you have to understand is actually to the best of your knowledge, so to say. So about this book, I would say that this book goes to the roots of the questions about your body, about your being, your life and death. And it is structured in such a way, it is narrated in such a way that you think that there is a certainty of death, but there is a probability or possibility of life, of living further. And I like the way it is written, that shows that amidst the certainty of death, you live. While reading the book, you go on meeting different forms of death, but still you feel that there is life beyond that. So that was actually beautiful. The story unfolds the memories, instances from earlier life of the narrator, his wishes or his longings, his Sehnsuchte, so to say. So I thought I should translate this into Marathi so that the readers in Maharashtra or our Marathi readers would get a different kind of perspective to look at life and death. I mean, how to narrate, how to see it. So it is really brilliantly written book. And while translating, this thought of mine remained unchanged. The book is divided into parts and smaller chapters, or I don't know, some paragraphs. Sometimes they are of, say, a few sentences. Sometimes they can be of 2 or 3 pages. And then there are some pages from hospital files, as I told you earlier, telling about the status of the patient. There are cuttings from the newspapers with the news of death and accidents. Some chapters unfold the memories. Some are about his stay in the hospital. There, there are so many stories abound and collected together, and they stay actually within the story of his liver transplant. There are so many stories. So yeah, so but there is, and because of this structure, there is a kind of abruptness in telling, and that is also very attractive, so to say, as the narration. So I thought that yes, I should try to bring all these things in Marathi, and I tried.
Wow.
Now I want to read the book. Really, you make it sound so good.
So much analysis has gone into it. This is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Wagner, you explore illness and survival with an intimate lens. Could you share what it was like writing such a deep personal story?
Actually, it was no different to writing other books because in writing a book, you always you have to go all in, yeah, and you have to go very deep. You have to go to and you're not you have to take all the risks, and you have to it's difficult to write a book if you're afraid of your family or even loved ones. In a way, yeah, you have to be very sincere, very and very very ehrlich in a way. Yeah.
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 Glad.
And this is sometimes hard, yeah, but yeah, so that's the way I approach that. And yeah, and well, but actually so I've written other books since Leben, and it's getting more difficult. That's funny. It's not that I found out the one way of writing. It's still a challenge.
Okay. Dr. Mahajan, how did you approach the task of preserving Mr. Wagner's voice and tone in your translation?
Oh, this is a tricky question. And I think I have to trick you with my answer. Yes, when you start translating actually a literary text, you go very close to the text, because otherwise you won't be able to translate it. You have to be in it. And after some pages, I mean, you are sometimes at the beginning a little hesitant, but after some pages you get involved in the story, because you are actually retelling the story in your language, in your familiar code, so to say, language code. So it is like the actor acting on the stage in the theater, and he might say that in the first performance or at the beginning, I was not in that character, but after some performances I become the character, so to say, because so it is like that. That translator begins with the translation of a literary text, and after some time he gets the nerve of it, and after some pages, so to say. But of course he can rewrite again. There are 2-3 versions of the text, of course. But after your involvement in the text, you really start retelling the story, and then you get that tone or voice of the author. And while translating, there are always these ups and downs, because sometimes you are happy about that, you say, yes, I have translated it very well, and put it very well in my code, in the in Marathi in my case. But sometimes you are not very happy, and you have to try it again and again. So these moments come and go, but as I said, you have to be in that text. You should be retelling the story as if it were yours, but of course with some distance, because you are not the author. And be loyal to the author, because your responsibility is to take it what he has or she has said to the readers, and not your words, I mean your thoughts. So in this book, again I would say that the style of Wagner, which is actually looking at the things from some third point, and not emotional, I mean keeping emotional distance from the narration. So that third point, I think I could also get it, this kind of distance, through selection of words or selection of syntactical structures. I tried, as I said.
Oh, that's quite a heavy task.
Yes, it's a tough task. Yes.
Mr. Wagner, the book Leben was read and discussed in many events in Europe and internationally. How was it received? I mean, what differences did you notice in interpretations from different cultural perspectives?
Yeah, very, very interesting. Book was widely translated. So there are 16 editions now, and in 16 languages. And very interesting was my experience in China, the People's Republic of China. I have one Chinese edition here. There has been another one as well. The book received the prize of the best foreign novel in China in 2014, I think, or 15. And so I was invited back and forth, and it was very interesting because Chinese readers, they this topic of death, or potential death, they were really interested on this in a way cheating death, yeah. Because in a way they read it that the protagonist, he in a way he escapes death, and that was very, they talk very openly about that. And on the contrary, in German-speaking countries or in Europe in general, the death or the potential death wasn't even mentioned very often in discussion. Yeah, it's sort of like a taboo. Yeah, and so this was very interesting for me, and and let me add some other thing what you said before, finding the voice of the author. Yeah, what you described. In a way, that describes for me writing as well, because that's my work as well, to find the one voice for the book, yeah, and in a way to make it the same in all passages of the book. And the funny thing is then that translators are really capable of transporting the rhythm and the sound of a book into another language. And because when I was in China, when there were like readings, and the translator or even an actor or an actress, she was reading from the book. And although I know nothing about Mandarin, or I knew nothing at that point, I in a way I could hear where they were in the text. The sentence, the rhythm, it was transported in a completely different language, but so I still knew where they were. Yeah, so that was very interesting. And I haven't heard the Marathi, but I'm very interested, and I'm sure you got it as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Dr. Mahajan, were there any moments when you had to make interpretive decisions? Can you give us an example of a passage that required careful balancing?
I think there are, I told you earlier that there are different parts in this book. And they have titles like Blood, My White Veil, After the Children Went to Sleep, Incipit Vita Nova, The Tired Giraffe, Snow. So usually the titles are suggestive and they give you some hint. They draw your attention to the messages or to the content what you can expect actually. But here it was little difficult with a few titles. I mean, for example, this tired giraffe. That is when I think the patient is diagnosed with colitis after his stay in the rehabilitation center is over. He is again hospitalized for another disease, and there he writes, and there he finds the diary of his childhood, and these passages are taken from that diary, and where he says he writes that every time at when he was a child he was always tired. He was I mean he writes about his weakness and that he was always tired and such things. So I think, I mean, that was my understanding, that he wanted to compare it with his present. So this past and present, this combination through that diary, so that was a little difficult to understand and to translate it so that the readers would understand also the same way. So then, because there is a detailed description about it, then I mean, you have the feeling that yes, this the narrator has had enough of this. I mean, that should be actually. I mean, and it is at the end of the book also. So it was little difficult to connect this past and present, as I said. And the memories that, I mean, again, this connection with the memories and with the present, that was also, sometimes you need to think about it. And I mean, though it was a little abrupt, I mean, as a translator, you should have the clear picture in the mind, then you can follow that. So there I had to be a little careful.
Okay. To add to this question, Dr. Mahajan, were there any specific phrases, idioms, or cultural references, especially while bringing text from German into Marathi, that you found really challenging?
Actually, there are actually less such contexts where the cultural references are made, because the narrator is all the time in the hospital, and he's cut from the outer world. So naturally, this cultural references are less in number. But I can give you one instance. He is again the same incident when he is waiting in front of his building for the ambulance to come and pick him up, and he is supposed to get hospitalized for his organ transplant. The ambulance drives in, stops slowly, and then a person gets out of it, and he comes to the narrator and asks whether he is eligible to travel without paying the travel, and if not, then he has to pay €5 immediately. And then the narrator says that he finds €5 note in his pocket, and he says that mit ihm kann ich die Überfahrt, I think there is something.
Die Überfahrt bezahlen.
Überfahrt bezahlen. Yeah. And then there's a typical
I can pay the
European,
passage.
Yes. So this is typical European cultural reference. As far as I know, I think this is a mythological reference, because when a dead body is transported to the underworld, I think a coin is kept in the mouth of the dead body, and the boatman who is driving him or traveling him to the underworld, he gets it. So this was difficult. I mean, this cultural reference I knew, but of course the Marathi readers would not know it. So I found a similar reference, so to say, cultural reference in Indian culture. And I said that Bhavasagar Tarun Nene. So Bhavasagar means it is the ocean of life, ocean that is life. The world of being, of life, so to say, ocean of life. And when I mean, you are always praying the God that he should help you cross this ocean of life. So again, that boatman is there and crossing the ocean. So I translated it that way so that it would be understandable. I mean, cultural references, though they are not very similar, but still I mean, the readers could get it. So yeah, so
still it is relatable.
Yes, relatable.
Right. Mr. Wagner, I found the dialogues between you and others, like you and the liver, nurses, neighboring patients, the tree, etc., very interesting. And I felt that these dialogues also relieve the reader. So please tell us more about it.
I should have read the book before talking. It's such a long time that I've written it, and I've read it, and in readings I mostly read parts which are not dialogues. And funnily, only 2 weeks ago I had a reading from Leben in Dresden, and this was again a reading with. Mostly doctors and surgeons, and because they are always very interested in this point of view of the patient. Actually, I have thinking about it. I have not the impression that I put too much really dialogue in it. The funny thing is that the book afterwards, or the novel afterwards, The Forgetful Giant, this book's about a family and the father. This is mostly written only in dialogues, and nearly only talking, and that makes it funny because the father, who is forgetting everything, he always repeats himself, and so this makes a sort of melodic, rhythmic experience for the reader as well. And yeah, but so from a dramaturgical point of view, I think the dialogue in Leben, in this book, it's the thing is that you are alone in your hospital room, and you're alone in your bed, and you have all the time actually staying in hospital is in more or less is a state of waiting. Yeah, you wait all the time. Yeah, and then it's a sort of relief when there is somebody next to you in the other bed, and then you can have a dialogue, and to live, Leben, to live is like to talk and to tell. And the thing is, as long as you can tell a story, yeah, as long as you can do this, as long you are alive, yeah. And this is in a way, this thinking that yeah, as long as you can tell a story, you're alive. And maybe that's why they are telling so much stories in the hospital. Very often I call this hospital, the German word is Krankenhaus, yeah, the house of the ill. Krankenhaus becomes Geschichtenhaus, the house of stories, yeah, because you have so much stories in hospital. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
This is such an interesting thought.
Yeah. No, it's just came to my mind that this like telling a story and as a proof that you're still alive, that I did in this novel. Yeah, this is the new novel which only came out in September, Werkin.
Okay.
And this is a story about the life and the adventures of a Turkish woman or Armenian Turkish woman from Istanbul, and she lived all over the world a little. And there is a narrator, and they get to know each other, and she in a way seduces him with her stories. And these are stories like from 1001 Night, yeah. And and she in a way, she cheats death a lot of times, yeah. And she comes around, and she's in a way this Oriental narrator, yeah, Shizarade from 1001 Nights, that as long as she's telling stories, she is still alive.
She can live.
Yeah, yeah, she can live. Yeah, yeah. This is in a way Leben 2, yeah, because it's another life, but she is telling her life, and she's telling a lot of stories about dead people. Yeah, she's her 11 dead husbands.
Yeah, that's right.
Another footnote.
Yes.
Okay.
Similar belief is there in folk literature of South India, that you go on telling stories, then only you can live. So your life, So that is in the folk literature, which Girish Karnad has written the play on it.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Nice. Yes.
Yeah.
Dr. Mahajan, translating someone's work often gives a unique insight into the author's mind. What qualities in Mr. Wagner's writing stood out to you most?
Oh, yes. He is a keen observer of his surrounding. He can actually register, every minute detail is registered in his mind, and he knows how to bring it to the words. And of course, in this particular book, it is the story of his illness, but he succeeds in keeping emotional distance when he's talking about death. And he talks about life and death and about the being, so to say. but there is also a light humor, and that touches your heart. So through the stories of other patients, nurses, ward boys, and the he unfolds a very interesting world in front of your eyes. So it is a different world than the outer world. It is in the hospital, but still it gets so many stories inside, as I mentioned earlier, that they within the story of his transplant there are so many different stories. And even you can go up to Mexico. I think he tells us the story about his past when he was in South America somewhere, and his hallucinations, his dreams. So it is a mixture of so many narratives, so to say, and that is why you can say that he's a minute observer of the surrounding. Yeah.
And I think this keeps the reader intrigued. That
Yes,
oh,
yes,
what's going to
definitely.
happen? We don't know in the next chapter. What's
Yes.
going to be. Mr. Wagner, throughout the book, various important people in the narrator's life, like the kid, friends, lovers, parents, or even neighboring patients, are introduced as memories. They were not introduced in any dialogue, scene, or event. So, was there any particular reason to do so?
At some point, I decided I can't really remember, like to do it in this sort of fragmented way, and in a way, I thought maybe every little chapter, every paragraph is another day, or you could read it like this. But in a way, I thought like it holds together with the sound of language, and it doesn't need this too much explication, like who is talking when or where he comes from. And I like in prose, I don't like this over explication. That's maybe the main reason. And or the other thinking is that I like the space in between, and where the reader adds his own thoughts and combines this. And so I like very much what you said, and that they no, I lost it. Sorry.
No problem.
Yeah.
Dr. Mahajan, translating a deeply personal work about life and illness can be intense. So, how
Yes.
did this project impact you personally?
Yes, it did have much impact, so to say, because sometimes I remember I stopped translating for a while because it was not possible. And because you really get involved in the story and in the content. And I have seen very dear ones, I mean, my husband who went through the illness, and unfortunately it was not curable. And you always have this thought that the medical field or knowledge, they are advancing very fast, but still you are not very sure, or you're not very certain that your body and your mind fight against this disease or illness, but the expected results are not there, uh, even though the medical field is advancing like anything. But you never know that. And what I liked in this particular case is, at the end it becomes little depressive because of this relapse through the colitis of the patient. But at the end, the book stops there when the child of the patient calls him and asks him, "Papa, when are you are coming soon home?" So
Oh,
that is something
that,
which is a relief. And there it
yes.
stops. The book stops. It does not say anything further, or it does not tell us the story after the hospitalization is over.
Right.
And so, with this positive note, it ends there. So that also I liked very much.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
no further stories are there. So here is the complete story of that illness with the positive note.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very cute scene at the end.
Yes.
Now, I observed that you broke down the long-winded sentences in German into simple sentences in Marathi, shorter ones. So please tell us more about it.
Yeah. Every language has its own syntactical structure. Marathi is more of smaller sentences. There are, of course, long sentences. They are written, of course, but usually the smaller sentences are used. But in German, like in English also, there are long sentences with so many clauses, and the clauses are post-positioned. I mean, or in German, they could be anywhere. I mean, before the Hauptsatz, after the Hauptsatz, and so on. But I mean, if you translate it like that only, keeping the same sequence, it becomes very clumsy in Marathi. I mean, Marathi is not the language where the sentence is with so many clauses. You have to break them when so many clauses are there. And so, I mean, you have to take into consideration the syntactical structure of the source language and of the target language. And accordingly, you have to make decisions where the languages should be made short, like what the Marathi reader would easily understand or relate to, or where you can keep them long as they are. Sometimes what happens, the translator is under influence of the syntactical structure of the target language, source language, that is German, because he's reading German often. So you get that impact on your the syntactical structure. But then it is always better that you get help from somebody who doesn't know German, only Marathi, and then he would tell us that whether it is clumsy or not clumsy. So
That is a good idea.
yes. So considering both the syntax, because syntax is the main thing when you are translating. The words are all, I mean, that problems can be always solved, but when the syntactical structure are very clumsy, then the readers have to do a lot many acrobatics to understand. So it is always better to keep this in mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for joining me in this conversation. It was lovely, and I came to know a lot of things through this discussion. So
Thank you,
I thank you
Lalita.
very
Thank you for having us, and thank you very much, Dr. Mahajan, for translating the book.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's great.
And I thank you because it is honor to me to be with the author, and thank you for accepting the invitation of Lalita's talk, and that is why we could meet virtually. And yeah. Yes, I have your signature on my book, which I took. Yes, from the Berlin.
Okay.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
So your autograph is there. Thank you, Lalita.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for taking out time from your busy schedules and joining me in this conversation. Thank you again. Pleasure meeting you. Bye-bye. Thank you everyone for joining me in conversation with Mr. David Wagner from Berlin and Dr. Sunandan Mahajan from Pune. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Books are available online, and I have given the links to purchase the books in the description box. Do have a look. Thank you again. Have a good day. Bye bye.